This is your English listening practice podcast to help you learn and improve naturally. Improving your English doesn't have to feel like a chore. In fact, with the right approach, it can become a natural and enjoyable part of your day. Hi there. Welcome to this episode, where I'll be sharing simple, practical ways to improve your English skills. If you've ever wondered how to get better at speaking, expand your vocabulary, or just feel more confident with the language, you're in the right place. Today, we'll cover some of the best methods to practice listening, build daily habits, and make steady progress without feeling overwhelmed. The goal is to help you make English a comfortable part of your life, whether it's through listening to podcasts, practicing conversations, or even thinking in English as you go about your day. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's dive in. Let's make improving your English something you actually look forward to. Let's start with one of the most important skills in learning any language, listening. If you think about it, listening is how we first learn to communicate as children. We listen, we absorb, and eventually we start to speak. It works the same way when you're learning a new language like English. One of the best things about listening practice is that it's so flexible. You can do it almost anywhere. For example, you could listen to a podcast while you're commuting, cooking, or just relaxing. And the great thing is, even if you're not actively focusing on every word, your brain is still picking up the rhythm, tone, and natural flow of English. That's called passive listening. It's not about understanding every single word. It's about getting used to the sound of the language. Over time, you'll start to notice common phrases, expressions, and even how sentences are put together. But then there's active listening, which is just as important. This is when you really pay attention to what's being said. Maybe you pause to repeat a sentence, or look up a word you don't know. For example, when you're watching a show or listening to a podcast, try to focus on how certain words are pronounced, or how native speakers express emotions. A good balance of passive and active listening can make a huge difference. And don't be afraid to repeat things. Listening to the same audio multiple times helps you notice new details each time. It's like peeling back layers. You always find something new to learn. Finally, choose materials that interest you. If you enjoy what you're listening to, you're more likely to stick with it. It could be anything, a podcast about hobbies, a TV show you love, or even a YouTube video like this one. The key is to make it fun and engaging so it doesn't feel like homework. Now let's talk about habits, those small daily routines that help you improve your English over time. You've probably heard the saying, consistency is key, and it couldn't be truer when it comes to learning a language. The good news is, you don't need hours of practice every day. Even 15 to 20 minutes can make a big difference if you're consistent. The first step is to find ways to fit English into your daily life. For example, start your morning by listening to an English podcast or a short video while you're having breakfast or getting ready for the day. You could also label items around your house with sticky notes that have their English names. It's a small thing, but seeing and saying those words regularly helps them stick in your mind. Another idea is to think in English throughout the day. It might feel strange at first, but it's a great way to practice without needing anyone else. For example, when you're cooking, you could say to yourself, "I'm chopping the vegetables," or "I need to add some salt." It's like having a little conversation in your head. The key is to make English a natural part of your routine. If you enjoy music, listen to songs in English and try to sing along. If you like reading, start with something simple, like news articles or children's books, and gradually work your way up to more complex material. And don't forget to set small, achievable goals. For instance, you could aim to learn 5 new words a day, or spend 10 minutes practicing your pronunciation. Tracking your progress, even in a notebook or an app, can be really motivating. Most importantly, remember that learning English doesn't have to take over your life. It's about making small changes that add up over time. A little bit of effort every day is far more effective than a big effort once in a while. Speaking is often the part of learning English that people feel most nervous about. It's completely normal to worry about making mistakes or sounding awkward. But here's the thing. The only way to improve your speaking is by actually speaking. It's okay if it's not perfect. No one expects it to be. One of the easiest ways to start is by talking to yourself. It might sound a little strange, but it's a great way to practice without any pressure. For example, you could describe what you're doing throughout the day. I'm making coffee, or I'm heading out for a walk. It helps you get used to forming sentences and thinking in English. Another method is shadowing. This is when you listen to a native speaker and try to repeat what they say as closely as possible. You could use a podcast, a YouTube video, or even a scene from a movie. Pay attention to their tone, pronunciation, and rhythm, and try to match it. It's like practicing a song. You're training your muscles to move the same way. If you feel ready to speak with others, look for a language partner. This could be a friend who's also learning, or someone online who wants to practice English or exchange languages. There are many apps and websites that can connect you with people for casual conversations. The goal is to get comfortable speaking, even if it's just for a few minutes at first. And remember, mistakes are part of the learning process. Instead of being afraid of them, see them as opportunities to improve. Every time you try, you're building confidence, and that's what really matters. The more you speak, the easier it will get. Over time, you'll find yourself thinking less about grammar and more about just expressing yourself naturally. And that's when you know you're making real progress. Let's talk about vocabulary. Building your vocabulary is one of the most rewarding parts of learning English, because it gives you the tools to express yourself more clearly and confidently. But instead of trying to memorize long lists of words, focus on learning new words in context. For example, if you're watching a TV show or reading an article, pay attention to how certain words are used. If you come across a new word, write it down along with the sentence it was in. That way, you're not just learning the word, you're also learning how to use it naturally. Another great way to expand your vocabulary is by focusing on topics you're interested in. If you love cooking, watch recipe videos or read food blogs in English. If you're into sports, follow news or commentary about your favorite teams. Learning words related to your hobbies is not only fun, but also practical because you're more likely to use them in real life. Idioms and expressions are also an important part of vocabulary. They might seem confusing at first, but they're a big part of how native speakers communicate. For example, instead of saying it's raining a lot, you might hear someone say, it's raining cats and dogs. These phrases add color to the language and make your speech sound more natural. And don't forget about synonyms and antonyms. For example, if you already know the word happy, try to learn similar words like joyful or content, as well as opposites like sad. This will help you avoid repeating the same words and make your English more expressive. Finally, practice using new words right away. If you learn the word delicious, try using it to describe your next meal. The more you use a word, the more likely you are to remember it. Vocabulary is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. Let's face it, learning a language takes time and effort. There will be days when you feel excited and motivated, and there will be days when it feels harder to keep going. That's completely normal. The key is to stay consistent and find ways to keep yourself motivated. One way to do this is by setting small, realistic goals. Instead of saying, I want to be fluent in English, break it down into smaller steps. For example, aim to learn 5 new words this week or practice speaking for 10 minutes every day. Achieving these small goals will give you a sense of progress and keep you motivated. Another tip is to celebrate your milestones. Maybe you understood an English podcast without subtitles for the first time, or you successfully ordered food in English while traveling. These are big achievements, and recognizing them will remind you of how far you've come. It also helps to make your practice enjoyable. If you love movies, watch them in English. If you like journaling, try writing a few sentences in English each day. The more fun you have with it, the more likely you are to stick with it. Surrounding yourself with English is another great way to stay consistent. Change the language settings on your phone to English, follow English-speaking creators on social media, or even leave sticky notes around your house with English phrases. These small changes can make a big difference over time. Finally, be patient with yourself. Progress might feel slow at times, but every little effort adds up. Think of learning English as a journey, not a race. As long as you keep moving forward, you're making progress. Remember, consistency is more important than perfection. Even on the days when you don't feel like practicing, doing just a little, like listening to a short podcast or reviewing a few words, can keep you on track. Improving your English doesn't have to be overwhelming. By focusing on consistent listening, building daily habits, practicing speaking, expanding your vocabulary, and staying motivated, you can make steady progress. Remember, it's the small daily efforts that add up over time. Whether it's listening to a podcast, practicing conversations, or thinking in English, the key is to make it a natural and enjoyable part of your life. And don't forget to celebrate your progress along the way. Every step forward brings you closer to becoming a more confident and fluent English speaker. Thanks for joining me today on Quick English Fix. If you want to learn English through listening in a cozy and comfortable way, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. My goal is to help you improve your fluency with daily English conversations, natural speech, and practical tips that fit into your everyday life. Stay consistent, keep practicing, and remember, learning English can be an enjoyable journey. See you next time for more relaxed English listening practice.